Let us come to the end of our workshop as we started with John Baker, the director and founder of the Center for Threat Informed Defense, to tell us what's next.
Wow, thank you. It is incredibly motivating, inspiring for me to see the way you and our speakers and the community has taken our work and actually puts it to use. I thought that today I would share with this group just a little bit of our journey, what led to us creating the Center for Threat Informed Defense. And then, as Sunil said, I want to talk with you about what we're working on and a little bit of our roadmap. What we do in the center is driven by our community, our members. So your use of our work drives what we do next. It drives improvement in our work. And I just wanted to start with opening out and inviting you, like we've been doing throughout the day, to engage, give us feedback, use the work, tell us about your successes, your failures, the problems that you're running into, because it just drives improvement. And it's, as I said, incredibly motivating to me, to our whole team, to see us kind of realizing that vision of creating practical resources that people use to improve their cyber defense. All right, so big milestone for us, we hit in November. It was our 5-year anniversary. I thought I would share with you a little bit of that journey over 5 years quickly before we jump into what we've been up to since we were here last year. So about 5 years ago, I think one of the really important things about the center was we didn't just dream up that we would create this organization. We had a already really active community that was growing fast, that was wanting to accelerate the growth of MITRE ATT&CK, that was really passionate about MITRE ATT&CK and really demanding more. But what was excellent was that those same people, much like yourselves, wanted to figure out ways they could help. We wanted to find paths to expanding and making it easier to operationalize the attack knowledge base. For me, there were like these 3 meetings that I had kind of back to back within about a month-and-a-half time span where large organizations were investing really heavily in using ATT&CK and wanting to do more. And they recognized that it was in their own sort of enlightened self-interest to technically contribute, but be willing to help sort of fund research. And the thing that kind of was significant or stood out to me was they had internal research going on that they recognized would really benefit the whole community. And they wanted to know if they could collaborate with us. And they wanted to know if, because we ran ATT&CK, if we knew of anybody else that was doing similar work, because they wanted to work together. And it was that kind of thinking that led to what are we doing, us being here today with the Center for Threat Informed Defense. So I wanted to find a path to really harness that energy and turn it from, bespoke conversations into something that was sort of systematized and could be sustained and scaled over time. We also realized that, as you've all seen here today, ATT&CK is, of course, at the foundation of threat informed defense, but it was much broader than ATT&CK. It was about operationalizing ATT&CK and a wide range of challenges in cyber defense. It was basically that idea of understanding threat and using that knowledge of threat to drive and improve cyber defense. And so when I think back to that opening panel, one of the themes that we heard was this focus on becoming more efficient and more effective. And to me, that is, from the very beginning, one of the core drivers of why we kind of decided to label this set of activities as threat informed defense and what we were really passionate about when we got started. So that then led down this journey of, well, how do we scale? Which led to creating the center. So we're this membership-based organization. We've grown to around 40 members now. We work together with our members. As I said, our members really drive what we do. And what's really unique is if you look, our members compete at times. They are in industry, they are cross-sector, they are global. So they bring a diversity of perspective into the research program, which for me was always critical because it allows us to focus on the problems that are going to have the greatest impact if we solve them. And so that's really been core to what we do and how we do our work in the center. So now what we've done is, I think of it as like an engine. We take feedback from you, from the community, from our members, and we turn those ideas, that feedback into problems that we kind of run through this innovation pipeline. And now we have an environment where we can systematically, routinely create solutions together. So I think today we've now published 41 projects over 5 years. So it's, for me, I think, and for the community, just a tremendous milestone and a tremendous indicator of the sort of support that you all and our members have committed to advancing threat-informed defense really globally, right? So I wanted to share with you a little bit of that origin story because I don't think I've shared that here in Singapore. And I think that's good context for kind of who we are and what motivates us as we look forward. So the last thing I would add is we're here today learning. I'm learning as we hear our colleagues and friends from around the community talking. We've created an environment where we all learn together. And if you think about that mission that you saw a few slides back of advancing threat-informed defense globally, well, it takes a community. It takes, you know, you've seen the shirts. It takes a village to really advance that capability globally. And it's not just research projects or creating a knowledge base. It's helping to advance all of us as practitioners as well. So we were here around this time last year. It's been an incredibly busy year since then. It's amazing to get to be back here. And I very much appreciate all of the effort that the team from Citi has put into hosting us again here. I thought I would do sort of a punch list as I was thinking about this. We've released a lot of new research projects, a lot of significant updates. I wanted to hit a couple of highlights, but I thought I would list them just because there's a little bit of a thud factor there, I think. We launched a whole new focus area in our research program that we called the Secure AI focus area. And as Sunil mentioned earlier, it led to the largest update to Atlas since its inception. And we're now working on the next round of research there in Secure AI, and that'll now become kind of a permanent focus within our research program, really demonstrating that we can start to go beyond the traditional kind of enterprise-ish focus of MITRE ATT&CK, tackling pressing challenges with that same core mission. How do we help solve these problems for the whole world in a way that we all benefit, right? The work that we've done mapping resources to attack has been, you know, one of the largest areas of work in the research program. I think maybe 30+% of our research has been around mapping things to attack, like you heard about CISA-KEVs to attack. You've seen references to, I think, NIST 853 and some of the other mappings we've done. Well, that work continued over the course of the year. We've done a tremendous amount of sort of updates and enhancements to the mapping. So if you haven't checked back in lately, do. Last year at this event, we ran the first sort of live in-person training that we'd ever done. And because of your feedback and the participants last year, we took that and we've now run that Summiting the Pyramid training maybe 6 or so times. We've done it virtually. We've done it in person in a few different places. And now training is a huge part of our research program. That's how we hear you and try to respond. To me, training is now critical. It's how we take the work that we have and help people put it to practice so that it really becomes impactful. So it's not just we publish something and put it on a shelf. We want it to be applied, right? We've continued to do a lot of work in the area of detection engineering. We did another round of research on Summiting the Pyramid with big updates there, and we've launched new projects in that space. So we just came off a talk, or 2 talks ago, talking about TIE. We've heard a bunch of references. I didn't think I would give you a briefing on what TIE is because we've seen people actually applying it. But what I wanted to share with you was, you know, when we created TIE, we kind of had a research problem that we were focused on addressing and a core set of use cases. that we wanted to tackle. The thing that I think is really unique about TIE is the approach that we took. So you can go to ctid.io/TIE today. You can see the web interface and just use it. And that's great. We want you to do that. But we also published our data set. We published a Jupyter notebook. We open sourced all of our code. And we did that because we want to enable innovation. And so to me, when I hear about people taking it and building new capability, retraining the model, that is a tremendous success. I want people to go to the web interface and use it. I hope people will take it and innovate with it, be inspired by it, tell us how to make it better, because that's really how we advance capability for the whole community. So I fell behind a slide, sorry. So anyways, we have this full set of resources is there and available. And so my challenge to everybody here is, use the work, be inspired by it, be creative, give us feedback, help us, improve the TIE data model or data set and training for TIE, right? Help us drive these capabilities forward because it benefits the whole community. We're trying to create this sort of continuous cycle where as we create capability, people innovate with it, people contribute to it, and it kind of just grows and grows and accelerates the whole community. So that's a little bit about what we've been up to since over the last year. It's been a really busy year of research projects and training. We have a lot of work underway today. And so as you're thinking about, what next, I thought I would leave you with a view into what we're learning right now as research projects, and then a little bit of information about kind of the bigger things that are coming up. So of course, there's a whole bunch more work that we're doing, mapping resources to attack. You'll see updates as we try to keep those mappings current with the current version of attack. We're developing a mapping to a financial sector profile of the NIST cybersecurity framework. So that'll be out later this year. I mentioned we're doing more work with Secure AI. There'll be a whole nother round there. A lot of focus on the continued AI incident sharing capability. In the detection engineering space, we just recently launched a project that we called Ambiguous Techniques. We want to make it much easier for you and the world to differentiate benign from malicious activity. As you know, a lot of attack techniques are perfectly normal to observe in your environment. How do you know when it's malicious versus benign? So that's a project that we're tackling right now, and you'll see in a couple months here updates there. Lots of screenshots of attack flow throughout the day here today, which, as I said, that's inspiring for us. We want to know how you're using attack flow so that you can help us make it better. With a project that we called Flow Visualization, we're working with our members to come up with a compelling set of new visualizations. And then on top of that, we want to make it much easier for you to create and share and collaborate on flows. And so you'll see a bunch of enhancements to like the Flow Builder user experience, documentation, and tools there. Yesterday, we did our first round of live in-person training based on M3TID. M3TID was new just before we came here last year, if I have the timing correct on that. Since then, we've gotten tremendous feedback and interest in really doing more with M3TID. So if you went to the training and you have ideas for how to make it better, talk to us. We are currently scoping the next round of research on M3TID. We see M3TID as kind of the key entryway for all organizations to understand where they're at now with threat-informed defense, how to get started, and what they should do next. Your experience will drive that next round of research. So then kind of like broadening that funnel out and thinking much kind of longer range, I wanted to mention a few of the areas of focus that are coming up. So we're having our first technical roundtable looking at maybe developing an attack-like research for financial fraud. We would like to understand from our members in the community if there's appetite and sufficient knowledge, data there to drive a resource like attack, but to understand financial fraud TTPs. The vision there that it's really motivating to me is there's a lot of overlap with what we've done in threat informed defense and attack today, imagine, with the flow data model as an example, you could start to build flows for fraud schemes. There's nothing in the data model that's tied to attack specifically. There's absolutely overlap in adversaries, in the approaches they take, just a different objective and a broader scope outside of just the pure IT environment. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. There's tremendous interest in starting to kind of bridge the relationship between the kind of risk perspective within an organization and sort of the cyber operations side. And I think that attack can be a great sort of foundational language to enable that collaboration, but there's work to do because we're really looking at different communities that kind of speak at different levels of abstraction. I'd love to see us tackle that and start to bring those communities together, right? Kind of going back to that theme earlier today, I think doing that starts to make us more efficient and effective in how we ultimately manage risk for our organizations and connect that back to our operations. Couple of things I'll kind of start to wrap up with. I want to give us a few minutes for questions at the end here. So this was year 2 for the APAC or Asia Pacific Attack Community Workshop. I hope there'll be a year 3. Your energy will make that happen, right? We have EU Attack, which I think is in its maybe 6th or 7th year coming up. We just announced the registration just opened yesterday, so my slide's a little bit off on this, but you'll see some updates from us with registration information for that. Those talks will all be available virtually for this audience. I don't think you need to fly to Europe. We want to create these sort of regional focuses. AttackCon is now dates announced, call for sponsors, that sort of thing. So we're trying to build out a global series of these events where we bring people together to share and learn. So to kind of put a bookend on the talk and then jump into questions, what I'm trying to do is scale threat informed defense globally. We can really only do that together with you all as a community. We have our center members, we have a set of organizations as benefactors that generously contribute to support our open independent research. And we very much need people to use the work and tell us about it to drive that innovation. Without that use, we don't have impact, right? So you've seen the QR codes, got to have some QR codes here. Very much want you to join us in the way that makes sense for you, for your organization and where you're at. Getting actively involved, participating on the Slack channel. That's how we accelerate research into threat-informed defense and really scale globally. So we'll stop there, I think, with a few minutes left for questions. Oh, go ahead, Perry.
Hey, thank you, John, and congratulations on good second event. So really, really enjoyable for me. You mentioned training a few times, and I was really wondering, would you be looking to roll that into the MAD 20 program of training and learning?
Great question. So MAD 20 program was a set of training that we spun off into a separate company that now has a bunch of training on attack and threat-informed defense. We will continue to run with the training that we've developed and make it available. I hope they'll pick it up, but they're now kind of their own separate entity.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Hey, John, thanks also, and yeah, well done for the second round of this event here in Singapore. In Raymond's, let's say, question or answer to a question, he mentioned about defense and control. So one of the challenges that I've seen in terms of applying or using attack as a framework is you often get the question of, we have these TTPs, so what? How do we mitigate these TTPs? And I think that's where I see some of the challenges as to translating the controls. What are the controls that we should apply to mitigate certain TTPs? How do you see that evolving or progressing?
Well, a couple of things, and kind of thinking about Lauren's talk a little bit. Right now, the attack team is working to significantly overhaul mitigations. And so I believe you'll see some nice improvement in the next release of attack. But I think that's just a step. I think there's a lot more that we need to do to continue to make the connection from threat to mitigation. Right now, there's still a pretty high bar there, if we're honest. And yeah, so we have some steps in mind. There's absolutely more that we can do, though.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I think that was a stretch. All right. Well, thank you all. And thank you all for being here today and the chance to talk about the center and our work with you.